The knock on my apartment door came at 9:17 p.m., long after the city had settled into its evening rhythm. I remember staring at my phone, wondering whether to answer the message from my director. "Can you come by? It's important." That was all she wrote. No explanation, no details. Just 5 words from the woman who had changed my life. For 3 years, I had worked under Director Helen Parker at a non-profit housing organization in Chicago. She was respected, feared, and admired in equal measure. The kind of leader who remembered the names of janitors, stayed late to help struggling employees, and somehow carried the weight of 1,000 broken stories without letting it show. Most of us believed she never slept, so when she asked me to come to her apartment after hours, I assumed it was about work. I couldn't have been more wrong. When I arrived, Helen looked exhausted, not tired, broken. The woman who normally stood tall and confident opened the door wearing an old sweater and slippers. Her silver hair was slightly messy, and dark circles framed her eyes. "Thank you for coming, Daniel," she said quietly. "Of course. Is everything okay?" She forced a smile. "But I think it will be." I stepped inside. Her apartment surprised me. Despite her position and salary, it wasn't luxurious. The furniture was old. The walls showed signs of age. Books filled nearly every shelf. Family photographs covered entire sections of the living room. The place felt warm, human. Nothing like the polished office version of Helen Parker. She led me to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of coffee. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then she slid a small envelope across the table. "I need a favor." I opened it. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "A storage unit key." I frowned. "Helen, what is going on?" She looked down at her hands. 3 weeks earlier, she explained, doctors had discovered a serious heart condition. She would need surgery. The odds were good, but not guaranteed. The words hung heavily between us. I didn't know what to say. Helen had always seemed indestructible. The idea that she could be vulnerable felt impossible. "If something happens," she continued, "there's something I need you to find." "Why me?" Her eyes met mine. "Because you care about people for the right reasons." I laughed nervously. "That sounds like a terrible qualification." "It isn't." For the next 20 minutes, she explained. Years ago, before joining our organization, she had made a promise to someone. A promise she never managed to fulfill. The storage unit contained documents connected to that promise. "If the surgery goes badly, I need you to finish what I started." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her everything would be fine. But I could see she needed certainty, not comfort. So I nodded. "I'll do it." The relief on her face nearly made me cry. As I prepared to leave, she suddenly remembered something. "Oh," she pointed toward a section of the living room wall. "The paperwork I need is behind there." "Behind the wall?" She smiled faintly. "Long story." I followed her finger. A bookshelf stood against the wall. Nothing unusual. But when we moved it aside, I noticed a small hidden panel. My curiosity exploded. Helen carefully removed the panel. Behind it sat a narrow compartment. Inside were several folders, a metal box, and dozens of handwritten letters tied together with a faded blue ribbon. I expected financial records, legal documents, maybe old property deeds. Instead, I found something far more surprising. Names. Hundreds of names. Each folder contained information about a different person. Addresses, photos, personal notes, scholarship records, medical bills, emergency assistance requests. I stared at the collection. "What is all this?" Helen looked away. "My life." I didn't understand. Then she opened one folder. A photograph slipped out. A young woman holding a newborn baby. Attached was a note. "Rent paid anonymously. 6 months." Another folder. "College tuition covered. Do not reveal donor." Another. "Medical treatment approved." Another. "Mortgage assistance." Another. "Funeral expenses." Folder after folder. Story after story. Life after life. My throat tightened. For nearly 30 years, Helen had secretly helped people, not through the non-profit, not through grants, not through public programs, personally, quietly, anonymously. Every bonus, every investment gain, every inheritance dollar, she had poured enormous amounts of money into helping strangers. Yet nobody knew, not even our board members, not even close friends, certainly not me. Why keep it secret? I whispered. She smiled sadly. Because gratitude can become a burden. I sat in stunned silence. Helen picked up one of the letters. It started with one family. Her voice softened. When I was 24, I was homeless. I nearly dropped the folder in my hands. Homeless, Helen Parker, the successful executive everyone admired. She nodded. My father died unexpectedly. My mother became ill. We lost everything. A stranger had helped them, paid their rent, bought groceries, covered medical expenses. The stranger never revealed his identity, never accepted thanks, never asked for recognition. He saved us, Helen said. Tears filled her eyes, and then disappeared. For decades, she had searched for him. She never found him, but she decided to honor him another way. By becoming the person he had been. The hidden wall wasn't hiding money. It was hiding stories. Proof that kindness mattered. Proof that lives had changed. Proof that one act of compassion could echo across generations. The surgery took place 4 days later, and everything went wrong. Complications emerged. Doctors worked for hours. For 2 terrifying days, Helen remained unconscious. I sat in hospital waiting rooms alongside coworkers who had no idea about the secret hidden behind her apartment wall. I carried the weight of her story alone. On the 3rd day, a nurse approached. Helen is awake. Relief hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. When I entered her room, she smiled weakly. You look terrible. I laughed through tears. You almost died. Fair point. For the next several weeks, she recovered slowly. During that time, I couldn't stop thinking about the folders, the letters, the lives she touched. One evening, I visited the storage unit she had mentioned. Inside were more records, thousands more, not financial documents, stories, updates, photos, graduation announcements, wedding invitations, birth announcements, messages from people who never knew who had helped them. A strange idea formed. Maybe Helen wasn't the only person carrying this secret. Maybe kindness had created a chain reaction. So I began reaching out, carefully, respectfully, one person at a time, not revealing Helen's identity, just asking questions. The results shocked me. The woman whose rent had been paid became a teacher. The student whose tuition was covered became a doctor. The family saved from foreclosure started a community food pantry. The young man whose surgery expenses were funded became a firefighter. Again and again, the pattern repeated. People who received kindness often passed it forward. One life touched another, then another, then another. Like ripples moving endlessly across water. Months later, Helen returned to work. The office celebrated her recovery. Flowers filled every surface. Employees lined hallways to welcome her back. She smiled through it all. But she still kept her secret. Until Christmas that year, our organization hosted a fundraising gala. Hundreds attended. Donors, volunteers, community leaders, families. Near the end of the evening, Helen unexpectedly stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. She adjusted the microphone. Then she did something nobody expected. She told the truth. Not everything, but enough. She shared her story about homelessness, the stranger who saved her family, the promise she had made decades earlier, the importance of helping others without expecting reward. Many people cried. I certainly did. Then Helen announced a new initiative, a fund dedicated entirely to anonymous acts of kindness. No publicity, no naming rights, no recognition, just help, pure and simple. The audience rose to their feet. What happened next still amazes me. People began donating immediately. Some gave hundreds, some gave thousands. One elderly couple donated their entire year's retirement bonus. A local business owner pledged ongoing support. Within a single evening, the fund exceeded every expectation. Helen stood on stage overwhelmed. For perhaps the first time in her life, she allowed herself to receive the same generosity she had spent decades giving away. After the event ended, I found her standing alone near a window overlooking the city. Chicago glittered beneath fresh snow. "You started something incredible tonight," I said. She shook her head. "Number." Then she pointed toward the crowded ballroom. "All those people started something." I looked around. Volunteers were hugging families. Donors were introducing themselves to community leaders. Strangers were becoming friends. Connections formed everywhere. Helen smiled. "Kindness doesn't belong to one person." The words stayed with me. Years later, after Helen retired, the Anonymous Kindness Fund continued growing. Then it expanded nationally, then internationally. Thousands of families received assistance. Students earned scholarships. Medical bills disappeared. Housing crises were solved. Food programs expanded. And nobody asked for credit. Nobody wanted applause. Because the mission was never recognition. It was humanity. Today, whenever people ask me about the most important thing I learned during my career, I don't mention promotions. I don't mention awards. I don't mention success. I tell them about a hidden compartment inside an apartment wall. A secret collection of letters. A woman who spent her life helping people quietly. And a lesson powerful enough to change everything. The greatest acts of kindness are often the ones nobody sees. The world tells us that impact must be visible. That generosity must be celebrated. That good deeds need an audience. But sometimes the most beautiful thing a person can do is help another human being and walk away without taking credit. Because compassion doesn't become valuable when people notice it. Compassion becomes valuable when it changes a life. And sometimes, hidden behind ordinary walls, are extraordinary stories proving that one caring heart can leave a legacy far bigger than anyone ever imagines.